Hello again, part 3 of the Pentagon bag, and you can see I've got a little bit further along, quite a way really, on both of these bags. See how little cute one is happening here. I hope you've had time to look at part 1 and part 2 because it'll make it a lot easier when you're looking at now this part 3. Okay, now when you saw my setup last time, I had the middle or the base, and I had these 6 radiating out from these edges. Now I've whipped stitched these edges together and then whip stitched the sides. The cardboard is still in this one, and that's now ready for its top row, which I'm going to show you in a moment. This one here is a bit further along. We have the base like this one, and whip stitched the 6 around the outside edge with the sides also done. And then I've started to put the second row on the top here. These have had their cardboard removed, and these will have them removed when the top row is finished. So these here, these 4 that are still in, will be removed as the next ones for that second row are added. And I will show you that also in a minute. Okay, now everybody who does English paper piecing has a favourite way of putting their pieces together. They have their own thread that they like to use and their own size needle. So a bit of a I suppose clue as to what I use. I use pure cotton thread and a good quality one that doesn't cause you issues like breakage, and I always use it double. Now sometimes I might use a very fine chenille needle if my eyes aren't good on that particular day, or I might use a crewel or a sharp needle, or even a Sashiko needle. It depends on the fabric that I'm using and how hard it is to stitch with too also. Okay, so you also notice that these are all wrong side out, and I can get into them a lot easier if they're wrong side out. Now I can then pop them the other way when I feel like it. The same with this one, I can pop it the other way, and this is going to be the finished outside. Okay, now once the second tier comes on, it pulls the shape inwards into the recognisable pentagon shape like this one, which is a replica of the little one I'm doing here. So it'll pull it in, and these will sit like little soldiers around on top of the base row. Okay, it's the same with this one. You can see they pull it in, and there's the entrance to your bag there, or the top of your bag there, which is, you could put a hexagon on the top of there and close it up if you wanted to. You'd have like a flat sort of 2-ended ball. Okay, so that's, we're also going to look at today is doing these tabs and your cord, and now last lesson in number 4, part 4, we'll be looking at these at the little end, finishing to your cord, which you should always do in some way. I've got different ones on different bags, and depending on the bag I choose at the time. These are just discs, just round ones, like that. Depends on the bag. And these ones here are the shape of the little hexagon that was appliqued. So yeah, so up to you how you finish them, but I will give you some good methods to keep your knots out of the way. That's just the ball shape one. Okay, right, now let's have a look how you do whipping for the people who have never done it. Now you're working on the wrong side, on this side, and putting your little pieces. In this case I'll have to be careful because I have 3 have flowers and 3 have round flowers, so I'm going to alternate them. Okay, so I'm going to be careful where I position these. Now I lay them and I look at them and I put this point here, the point of this downwards into that little area there, and it pulls the edges in. So right sides together, I've got my 2 pentagons together. I'm going to bury my knot in the seam allowance, and then I'm just going to whip. So whipping is just a matter of going over and over and over, and I always do this with double thread, and this is so I can pull this extra hard. I hope you can see that past my hands. It's a bit hard when you trying to show. I'll get that a little bit closer, like so. And okay, now the good thing about the cardboard and the felt, the cardboard will stop your stitching going too deep into the fabric, and it makes it nice and straight also. Now when I get to this point here, that innermost point there, I then have to open this out and turn it over to match on that side. Okay, you can see that. So like that, and turn it that way. Right, at that point, you can start popping out your cardboard on the previous row. So sometimes it's a bit hard, but just persevere and it should just pop out like that. Just pat that down, and the felt is protected by the nice big seam allowance that's there. Right, now this makes it so much easier now to sew this other side down, and I am still whipping along. It's not a particular big stitch. It's an over and over. Now I know for some people they would, if they were doing this as a quilt, they might do the stitches very, very small, so they're almost invisible, or use silk thread. I'm not that fussy's not really the right word, but I'm not. I like to actually personally see a few of the stitches in mine. Okay, so that sits there like that. Then the next one sits then next to that, and you will end up with a flat edge, and you can see it on the big one here, a flat edge going around the bag here, and you can clearly see the first row and the second row sitting in those little, I suppose, V gaps here. They're sitting in there with the point down. Okay, and that's what gives you this straight edge around the top. Okay, so we could continue on freeing up your cord. Freeing up your card, I should say, not cord, card. I'm just trying to decide which one I want to go in there. I think I'll put that one in, which is slightly different to the flower below. So I'm going to have like 2 flowers on an angle. Right, now I'm doing the same thing. You can see that with the little one, it's a lot quicker because your sides are a lot smaller. So, right. Okay, well, rather than watch me just do millions of these, we're going to go on to look at the tabs that take your drawstring. Okay, so with this really little one, I really don't think you need to do them. This is a little bowl rather than a bag. It's unless you were doing specifically for some reason and you wanted it extra small. I really don't think it needs to be turned into a bag. Okay, so now I'm popping out the cardboard here, and the felt is still nicely in there with the seam allowance over it. Okay, so that's the felt, these are cardboard still. Okay, so I'm now going to do up here, and of course I have to do here as well. All right, just like that together, like that. And I can pull extra tight with my finger underneath here to close up this whipped seam. Right. I'm just about to run out of thread, of course. Doesn't last forever, unfortunately. When you run out, I actually walk my needle down into the seam allowance there and pull it through. And then when I join in my next lot of stitches, I make sure I stitch over the previous 2 or 3 stitches for insurance. Okay, so that's starting to sit like that. And I shall thread some more thread. That won't be enough. So your tabs, while I'm doing this, I'll talk about tabs. They can be any size you like. If you want really tiny ones, then look at the pattern. I know the pattern says 5 centimetres wide by 1/2 metre. It's pretty easy to remember. And that will give you a standard size of the tab. But remembering that, depending on the bag, you might want them wider, you might want them thinner, you might want them longer. And I don't think there's any rules of this. I think it's just how you feel at the time. So if you can see, the black ones are really bold. So they're a little bit wider, or they're might have started off as a strip 6 centimetres wide rather than 5. This is about 6 wide. And then you're going to fold the 2 raw edges into the middle. So what I do is I fold this in half, like so. And you can see they're over here on this little side. I fold this over in half and iron a crease right down the middle, like that. You can see that. See mostly my arm. And then I fold in the 2 outer edges. So 1, 2, and then I fold it back in half again, and you have that effect. Okay, and then I stitch either decoratively or by machine. I don't think it really matters. Again, I think it's depending on the bag that you've chosen to do, whether it needs to be bold, so it looks like this. And then you stitch down the side, down that long side, and then down its opposite side as well. I'll get one that's a contrast. So this one here, you can see, is a contrast. And you can see the red stitching on the black. This one is black stitching on black, so you can hardly see it. So then this becomes a feature. What else have I got here? I've got a tiny one here. As I said, this was my original one, or one of the original ones, and this has got really tiny tabs. And you can only just fit the cord through. It gives you a very snug effect when you draw it up. It's more like that. Okay, but if your tabs are longer, it gives you this effect in the middle. Okay, so I think you have to sort of just decide what you like. I don't think there's any hard and fast rules on this. You can see these are quite long too and quite big. and there pick up the colour in the fabric here. So, but it gives you a lovely shape in the middle as well when you draw it up. So it's a nice thing to have a play around with, see what you like. And of course the Easter one doesn't have them at all, so you don't even have to worry about it, though you could put them here if you wanted to. Now this one here is glove stitched edged. Okay, now your glove stitching will be in I have another YouTube video on glove stitching, so if you want to do a decorative edge stitching, glove stitch is a really nice one to learn. It's very, very easy. Most people get the hang of it pretty quickly. It's very strong and gives you a permanent join, and it's also on the top of that one as well, on the edge of that one. So it's a really good edging stitch. Okay, right, so let's get back to doing a bit of this, and I'll start to put some tabs on this one here. Okay, right, so the next one I want to put on is this one. Okay, but I will do this joining one too, so it's out of the way, and I tend to go from the top down and join into where the base of the V is. I find that makes it nice and strong at the top. I don't have to worry about anything opening up because that's where the knot was. So let's start off, and again just whipping these edges together. So now after you've actually finished this, you repeat the whole process with your lining. Now your lining has no felt in it. It doesn't need to have felt, and it is the same size. So you need to get these templates out once the tabs are sewn down, and so you can make your lining as well. Now the lining is subject to your availability of fabric too. So if you have leftover of your outside fabric, you can put that into your lining, or if you don't have a lot of it but you want to use it up, you can put it with a contrast, and I'll show you a few of those. Now I'm just going over existing stitches along here before I cut it off, so I don't end up with a hole there. You don't want to get a hole where the junction is, where it points down, or at this point here where that one points up. You don't want that to happen. Right, now this is where I ran out of thread, so I have a little tiny bit there to do. So I will start about 3 or 4 stitches back on myself and go over those. It's to reinforce those, and then get to the point, this little point of the two that are joined together, and then open that out, and then look at inside what I'm doing, and then join in the next one. So this will be my next one. Deciding where it will sit. I think it might go like that. Right, okay. Again, you can do the side, or you can go down and do these ones first if you wish to. It doesn't really matter. All 3 sides are getting joined in now. So these pieces, the only thing that's not joined in is the top edge, which then gets joined to the lining. But in the end, they all get sewn together, all the edges. Now, so there are 6 to do of these, and I'm alternating flowers and daisies and chrysanthemum or dahlias flowers. So I'm at the point there, and I'm flicking that up turning this around. And then you can see that that doesn't really want to bend very well there, because that's where the cardboard is. But because the stitching is all around the cardboard area, I can now pop that out, because it's nice and secure, having been ironed as well. The iron-on felt is there and it's holding on quite well, and the big seam allowance is its security as well. Right, so now I'm sewing from left to right. Don't be afraid to do that. It just takes a bit of practice. Left-handers will find it good that they can sew the other direction. Sewing two directions is very useful. So left to right and right to left. Right, okay, I'm going to stop doing that. And because I've got double thread in my needle, I can leave that hanging and my needle will not come out. So it is a useful thing to know to do too. Now you can see how this is starting to come in, make a shape that comes inwards, and I know now my next one will be a daisy flower. It will be that one there, and that will increasingly pull that inwards, and it will look like this, like that. So let's have a look at lining before I go on to the other one. Now this one here, because I had done so much fussy cutting on the outside, I knew I was not going to have enough. Got thread hanging there, needs to be cut off. I knew that I was not going to have enough in one colour for the lining, or so this is what I did. I had some red hanging around, and so the red now makes a pattern. I've got two alternating in red inside, with a big one on the bottom. But it was a matter of then using up this excess fabric that I had cut too, just in case I was deciding which patterns I was going to use, and that means it gets used into the lining of the bag. Okay, so let's put that back out that way. So use what you've got of your base of your original fabric. That's always a good idea. And this one is much the same, except the bottom is all design and the top row is all linen. So that gives you another idea of how to do your lining. Now you can see I'm pretty hard on these. When we go away to Craft Alive events, they get all stuffed inside each other. So the small ones get put into the big ones. And then when we get to the other destination, our destination, we pull them all through and just pat them, and we don't have access to an iron, so they're not going to be ironed. So I'm pretty confident in the felt works quite well. Okay, so what I'm doing was with my little cord guides is I'm just doing a big stitch, running stitch here like this through here, and then when I've done this side and the other side of this, I will cut this up into about 2.5 to 2.5. And again, this just depends on how much of this you want to see and how bold you want this to be. At this present time, I'm tending to do them fairly bold, but there may become a time when I don't do them the same way. I'll do them slightly different. Remembering to don't go too small, because you've got to be able to get your cord in. So your cord is wax cotton cord. It comes in quite a few colours: black, blue, brown, even a peachy colour and a pink, which is in this one. Let's get it around here like that colour. All different colours that a colour should suit. If not, you just go to black to if you know you haven't got colour in there that you can match. Okay, so I try and when you're doing a contrast thread on this, just try to make sure that your stitches are reasonably the same size, so they sort of like blend together and you haven't got any big stitches in there. So I'm going to go back the other direction and just want to show you where I position these on the inside of the bag. Okay, so just make sure that it's nice and flat. I just work one stitch over through there. It'll get chopped off and be gone anyway. And come up the other side, making sure I'm about this. They're about the same size stitches. It's a bit easier on this side, as you haven't got multiple layers of fabric. Okay. So in your pattern it says to cut them at 2.5 inches in length. Again, that's up to you. And I would sort of like put a few on without cutting them. What do I mean by that? Or don't cut them too short, so you can actually shorten them if you wish. You can't lengthen them once you've cut them. I suppose that's what I'm warning you. And then if you think, oh, they're a bit long, or I don't like the stitching, or that, you know, they're too bold, it takes over a bit much, then it's pretty quick just to make some more and change the colour of what you've chosen. Let's try and get that thread out of there. There we go. Then with your thread, not this one, this decorative one, this is Sashko's thread. It's nice and bold and doesn't cause any problems like shedding or fluffing, so I use it a lot for decoration as well as stitching. Right, now I'm going to cut this, but don't be too concerned. It doesn't fall apart as soon as you cut it. So it's not really an issue. If you feel it might be, then you'll do small ones individually and then you can end them properly. Okay, right, so this is the piece that I've done, and I can divide that into 3. And I know that's about 2 inches, and I think this much extending out, maybe not long enough, so I've got plenty cut, so I can cut this into half, and then you halve it again to make your tabs, and then you'll just need to sew down lower. That's all you need to have to remember. Okay, so this is what I do. I'll get my bigger scissors. I just cut this in half like this. As I said, it's a lot longer than you need. Decide if you want the big stitch side or the small stitch side. They should both be pretty even in stitching. I want the little stitch side here like that. And at the join here of the top tier, now I can only do 2 on this one because I haven't got enough in there yet. This lays onto the fabric, okay, like this. And this is the other reason that this tab area or this fold over seam allowance is wider than usual, because it allows you to sew these tabs onto that seam allowance and be really secure. Right, now what you need to do then is to measure how much is extending past the straight edge of your Pentagon bag. Now, I haven't got a problem with it going down this far. I would prefer it went down further rather than not enough, and that it has the danger of being pulled out. But do measure how much is exposed of these, so they're all going to be the same. Okay, that's really important. Okay, so this is what I'm up to now. I've got to get the other 3 on, and then I'm going to show you in the next episode, episode 4, or part 4, the finishing off of this, taking out all the cardboards and then dropping it into the lining. Okay, so it's still a little bit way to go. Not so much on this one because this is not having any tabs, so I just have to do the lining on this one. And but as we say, with everything that is handmade, it all takes time. And I know I'll be very happy with it when it's done. Okay, thank you for listening to part 3. We've covered assembly, sort of lining, or options for lining, looked at tabs, looked at cord. Now the cord, I didn't mention, the cord thicknesses I use is about 1.5 millimetre. And I think for these size bags, this is about right. Okay, I don't like to go much thicker than that, and I don't really like the very, very thin cord. So you can get most of these things, fabrics, sashiko thread, wax cotton cord. This is the cord here from Bitten by the Bug shop. And we sell these in small amounts, so you don't have to buy big card amounts. You can buy just a couple of meters if you wish to finish, give your bag that really good, nice, professional finish. Thank you for listening. Look out for part 4, and also don't forget, if you haven't seen part 1 and 2, they are a good lead up to 3 and 4, so don't skip them. You might find something out that you don't know. Thank you very much.